I want to share with you 3 things on advice that I have lived with that were given to me. And the first one is that attitude is the difference maker. And this is an important lesson and advice that I received because I was still, I was just a sophomore in high school. And Coach Don Neff, I'll never forget, we're getting ready to start the season. And before the first game, in the last practice, he said that he was going to announce who the captain of the team was going to be. And I'll never forget that when he said that John Maxwell was going to be the captain of the team, I was shocked because I was only a sophomore and everybody was older basically than me. And we were all shocked. I mean, it's kind of like we thought for sure one of the seniors would be the captain. And so I'm sitting there on that floor in that Mill Street gym in Circleville, Ohio, and I'm just saying, I think he just said I'm the captain of the team. And then what Don Neff said, I'll never forget, he said the reason he's going to be the captain, he's not the best player on the team. He says he's a good player, but he's very young. But the reason he's going to be the captain is that he has the best attitude. And he wants desperately for all of us to do well and succeed. And he said it's his attitude that sets him apart in the team. And I can still remember what would I have been at that time, maybe 15 and a half, 16 max. I can still remember sitting on that floor and saying to myself, attitude is important. And little did I realize that many years later, I write a book on, attitude is the difference maker. But it reminds me of what John Wooden said one time when he said, you're not the best player on the team, but the team plays best when you're on it. And so attitude is so important. And so I made a decision as a sophomore kid that I was always going to have a great attitude. And what I discovered in my years on attitude is that attitude isn't everything, but it is the main thing. And I did write a book on the difference maker. And what I mean by it's not everything, once in a while I'll run people to say attitude's everything. I said, no, I don't think so. Honestly, if you have a job and you're incompetent, I mean, hello. I mean, if you go into surgery and the surgeon's not very good, I mean, is it any comfort to know that he has a good attitude and he's smiling at you as you go under? And and the last thing you hear is a oops, oh my gosh. So no, I don't think attitude's everything, but here's what I mean by the fact it's the difference maker. It's the main thing. Here's what I mean by that. 2 people being equal. Okay, let's say you're getting ready to hire a person for a specific job, and they have pretty much the same background experience, pretty much same gift in this skill set. But one has a really great attitude, and one doesn't have such a hot attitude. I mean, it's very simple. Who are you going to hire? You're going to hire the person with a great attitude. It's the difference maker. And all of us know what it's like to be around a person that has a wonderful attitude versus what it's like to be around a person that doesn't have one. So as a sophomore in high school, when Coach Neff said, John, you're going to be the captain of the team, and told the other players the attitude. And I never will forget, by the way, that after that session, he asked if he could take me home. And so I said yes, and so he drove me home. And on his drive home, he looked at me now. See, he said, John, I've put a weight on you, an expectation on you. He said, the other players now are going to expect to see that attitude I talked about. He said, don't ever let me down. And I can still remember, as a kid, just taking that advice and saying, I'm going to make Coach proud. I'm going to make him proud. And even today, I still remember how I've carried that throughout my whole life, that attitude is the difference maker. It really is. The second one is the one I'm going to dwell on the most. And the advice I pass on to you here is advice that my father gave me. And I'll give you the setting in a moment. But the advice I give you is just very simple. Life's not about you. And maybe another way to say it that's a little nastier is just get over yourself. And in fact, I tell people all the time, you ought to, laugh at yourself. Everyone else is, so you might as well laugh at yourself and get over yourself. Don't take yourself seriously. But where I learned that and got that advice was when I was in college. My father was the president of the first college I went to, and it was a theological school because I was going into ministry. And so we had a college quartet, and I happened to be in that college quartet, and we were in Michigan on a trip, a kind of a musical tour. And we were going to do something that night. We were making a group decision. There were 5 of us in the quartet. My dad happened to be with us on this trip. And so we were kind of deciding what we're going to do that evening, and I didn't get my way. And I expressed myself. I said, I pouted, and I was not happy, and I let everybody know I wasn't happy. And I'll never forget that my father said, "Excuse me." He pulled me out of the group, and we went to another room where we were staying. And he set me on the bed, and he gave me my first lecture on "It's Not About You, John." And it was in that setting that he taught me the difference between maturity and immaturity. You talk about advice that helps you to grow up real quick. He said maturity, a person that's mature, they can see perspective from other people's viewpoint. He says somebody that's immature, they can only see their own perspective. It's all about them, and it's all about what they think or what they see. And he said, "John, you were very immature out there. It was all about you. And when you didn't get your way, it was really all about you," because he said you kind of created a fuss. And then I remember he grounded me. He just said, I just think that there are a couple of privileges I just need to kind of take away from you until you kind of get a little bit more mature, because it's not about you. Now, when I teach communication, you see, there's incredible power when you just focus on others. Again, my life was changed when I heard Zig Ziglar in my 20s say, as a leader, if you'll help people get what they want, they'll help you get what you want. All of a sudden, I realized I had to pivot, that I was saying, get on my leadership train, and it was all about me. And that day, Zig said, no, it's not about you, John. It's about others. And I walked out of there, and I said, okay, what Zig is teaching me, now what I'm passing on to you as far as best advice today is add value to people first. You be the first to help them. Don't wait for them to step up and help you. And I know that doesn't make sense. But here I want you to catch this. The more you value others, and the more that you add value to others, the more that you'll receive value back from others. I don't know, what this would almost be the law of the boomerang, okay? There's something about once you pour into other people and quit worrying about what you're going to receive, or quit worrying about how much they like you, all of a sudden there's a return. Again, I was reading an article, by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, and he said something very interesting. He said he credited Amazon's growth and long-term success on what he called obsessive compulsive focus on the customer. And he has a whole list of what he calls customer obsession, which number 1 is that you put the people absolutely first. And this is such an incredible principle. And so I was writing down some things that I wanted to pass on you. For example, if you're in sales, if the buyer believes that you have their best interest all the time, when they're ready to buy, they'll seek you out. If you're a speaker and the audience knows that it's all about them and not about you, they'll not only embrace your message, they'll embrace you. As a manager, if you're kind and you're encouraging and you give corrective feedback, the people, they'll work harder for you. They'll come back and they'll make those positive changes. When I write, if I'm writing pages and it's about hope and help, I know that reader is going to keep turning the pages. It just happens that way. As a leader, if I'm building trust in my people, I know that they're going to give me trust in return. It's kind of like the golden rule. Treat others as you'd like to be treated, and all of a sudden it comes back to you. Okay, let me squeeze 2 more minutes out. Let me give you number 3. The third advice I would give you, I got from Peter Drucker. After spending my first time with him 3 days with about a dozen other people as he mentored us for 3 days, he finished his last session by saying, now the question I have to ask you as I poured into you is, who are you going to mentor? Who are you going to mentor? In other words, I've done this for 3 days for you now. Who are you going to pour your life into? In my office and home, I have a painting. It's not a great painting, but I've carried it with me for years into all the different homes and offices I've lived in. And it's a painting of a younger brother sitting at a table, and the older brother is painting, and the younger brother is watching him paint. It's a beautiful visual mentoring picture. And I love that because it just reminds me that somebody's watching, and we need to be intentional about pouring into other people's lives. You know, I have 3 college degrees, and I have never had a person, this is amazing, outside of, well, okay, when I go speak at like a graduation at a university or something, maybe. But other than that, honestly, no one ever asked me about my 3 college degrees. They don't. The coaches here, they don't know what 3 degrees I have. And Andrew, he doesn't know. I mean, nobody asks us, now, John, what college degrees do you have? No one asked me about that. But you know what they always ask me? Who mentored you? Who were the mentors in your life? Because we all understand that we are marked by mentors. And my friend Malcolm Gladwell many years ago taught what I call the law of the few, which basically leaders invest in a few people who have great impact on many others. That's where I got the idea, add value to leaders who multiply value to others, or as Andy